I've seen very often there are these talks and discussions, but they're circling around each other. But what is the first step? And the Serendipity Day is something very concrete where you can say, okay, let's meet for 1.5 days and develop some ideas together. And to prepare for that, you also have like a very concrete path to work towards that and afterwards as well. And that really helps to get things going.
Hello and welcome to the Strategic Partnerships podcast series. My name is Madeleine Arkins. I'm a Research Project Officer at UIIN and your host for today.
During the 2023 UIIN Conference, we sat down with Jochen Barth, Group Leader of Networks and Transfer at Fraunhofer Institute, to discuss Serendipity Day, the innovative format that brings industry and research together to develop new ideas and applications. Join us to learn more about how Serendipity Day navigates the needs of both industry and academia in collaborative projects. Hello, I am joined today by Jochen Barth, the Group Leader of Networks and Transfer at Fraunhofer Institute. Just to begin, could I ask you to tell us a little bit more about your role at Fraunhofer and what you do?
I guess you first need to say I work at one of the many Fraunhofer Institutes, and that's the Fraunhofer Institute for Machine Tools and Forming Technology, the IWU in Dresden. And there I'm the group leader of Networks and Transfer. In my group, we basically facilitate technology transfer. We also take care of a couple of networks where we do some of the public relations, communication, marketing, and also organize some events during the year. And from my background, I'm a psychologist, which is quite a unique position to be in. A psychologist among many engineers, but I guess that also gives me the freedom and also the responsibility to really focus on the relationships we are building with the industry and develop formats that make the best collaboration possible.
And we'll come back to that relationship piece in a minute, but I first wanted to ask you about your initiative event series. I'm not sure how you'd call it, the format of Serendipity Day. Could you tell us what that is?
First of all, in English, it's quite well known, the term serendipity. In Germany, you need to explain it. A lot of people don't know the term, but it's often translated as the lucky accident. But if you look a little bit where it's coming from, it comes from medieval Arabic tales, and there were 3 princes of Serendip, and they came to a village, and everyone in the village was very surprised about their knowledge because they had answers to questions that surprised everyone in the village. So everyone thought these 3 princes were very wise, but they actually paid very good attention on their way towards the village and were just very good in observing and interpreted all the clues to draw their conclusions. And that's where the term serendipity is coming from. So I guess that translates a bit to our format where we try to observe carefully and put clues together and come up with solutions maybe we didn't think of before. So in that sense, we hope to develop new ideas. And I guess in the combination of people we bring to a Serendipity Day, that's where I hope that the magic happens. Maybe a little bit about the origin of the Serendipity Day. There are a couple of clusters of excellence within Fraunhofer about very new research topics that received some funding to be further developed. And then clusters are built between different Fraunhofer institutes to develop that new research topic. One of these clusters is the cluster for programmable materials. And that's a very new topic where research is very excited about and industry is also super excited. But since it's so new, there are not really any applications so far. So they came to us and they asked us, can you develop a format where you can bring industry and research together to develop new applications? And we have done that format now 3 times with very large industry partners. And I must say it has been really a success because we get asked a lot now for more Serendipity Days. And maybe if I tell a bit about how a Serendipity Day works. At the beginning, you need some inspiration about a research topic. So sometimes industry was on the website of the cluster for programmable materials and they get interested and they contact us. Can you tell us more? Then we organize a meeting, 1 hour via Teams. And there we present the research and also the possibilities of programmable materials. And then we get into a discussion, okay, what could be maybe product ideas you have where programmable materials could provide a solution? Then if we say, okay, we want a second meeting, we make sure that we work towards an NDA, which can be sometimes quite quick. Very often it's a very lengthy, complicated process. But if we have it, industry can be more open about their product ideas. And then in a second and maybe third Teams meeting, we make sure that we create a match between the product vision and the competencies within the cluster. So you have to imagine these 5 core institutes, and I think in total 17 institutes that are participating. So you have a pool of about 100 researchers that work in that cluster. And then you look for the competencies you need. You put a team together, and then we gear up for the Serendipity Day, which is like a meeting in presence for 1.5 days. It's always at the industry partner on location. We start off with a tour through their research lab, and that is for me a very key element. I call it also the reality check of our researchers, because you have to imagine you come in there and it kind of looks the same as at our research institute. They have very good facilities, they have a lot of budget, they have very good people, they do nothing else than doing research for that particular company 5 days a week. So we come in there as researchers, but the important question is then, where do we really make a difference? And this is what we are trying to find out there. And then we proceed with the case owners of the industry partner will present their product visions. We have a round of like clarification questions. And we go for a dinner, which to me is also a very important element of getting to know each other better, really developing relationships in the sense it's not only about business, but it's also you have an opportunity to talk more about the things you heard during the day, but also to really get to know each other. And that's a foundation for the next day where we really go into ideation. We do that in like a World Cafe setting where we have several tables, each with a case owner. So representing like one product vision. And then we do rounds where everyone's going to build on top of each other, developing ideas like which research can now contribute to achieving that product vision. Then the two parties separate to have the opportunity to have 1 hour of internal conversation. So the industry partner can say, okay, from what we've seen now today, where do we really see potential? Where are we willing to invest? And from our side, from Fraunhofer side, we need to think about, okay, what is really realistic? What can we really promise? And in which kind of time frame, under which conditions? And then you bring these two together and you see where you have a match. And then you develop research topics that then in the weeks afterwards get translated to like project proposals.
Is there any one particular aspect of this format that you think is the key into why you're being asked to replicate it in other settings?
I think, first of all, it's important to have a format you can work towards. Because what I've seen very often, there are like these talks and discussions, but they're circling around each other. But what is the first step? And the Serendipity Day is something very concrete where you can say, okay, let's meet for 1.5 days and develop some ideas together. And it's like very much at eye level. Both have an equal share in creating their ideas. And to prepare for that, you also have like a very concrete path to work towards that and afterwards as well. And that really helps to get things going. And that's, I think, why both sides like it very much, format.
In these sort of relationships between industry partners and academia, how do you balance the competing needs of both parties? So many people describe these collaborations as a balancing act.
Certainly is a balancing act. To me, always the question of the client is always leading. Because I worked many years in consulting, I'm very much clients focused, which is not a typical mentality in the research environment. But in the end, the client pays for what you do. Of course, a lot of what we do is tax funded. So the stakeholders are basically industry partner, are the researchers, and is also, in that sense, the taxpayer who pays for a lot of our fundamental infrastructure. And also in these excellent clusters, it's basically all tax funded because it's helping research to be developed to a point where industry is going to pick it up. And that comes with a lot of formalities. But I hear always people are like frustrated about why are there so many formalities or why do we have to do it in a certain way? Huh? But I think it's always important to understand all perspectives and bring them together. Because in that sense, that research would never be developed if it could not be helped with tax money in the first place. It's also interesting then for the industry partner, we have two options if we do a project. I think it's a very attractive offer because we can say, okay, we have funding to do a project where you don't have to pay to do a first step. But since it's paid by the taxpayer, the results are available to everyone. sometimes industry wants exclusive rights, wants the IP. In that case, industry needs to pay for it. And sometimes we have a combination. We do a first step, maybe funded, and then the second step with the industry budget.
Thank you for listening to the discussion. Follow UIN on LinkedIn, and if you're enjoying our podcasts, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on your podcast platform of choice to help others find this content too.